This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Wednesday, October the 23rd, 2024. So glad you could join us. Coming up a little later on in the program, we'll talk with Jason Meyer of agmarket.net to get the closing market summary. But first, let's go out in the field and get a preview of the latest Beck's Harvest Tour video as Riley was in Marshalltown at the farm of Kevin Hall.
Kevin, as we're getting into the corn right here, what have you been seeing for yields from that Beck's hybrid that is in this field? What have you been seeing for yields on that this year so far?
This particular field's been really well so far. Lower upper 200s right now. The monitor's not perfect, but it's close. I came from another field, a lot more rolling and stressful. It was still in the 260 range, but we're looking at 280, 290 on this field so far. It just kind of depends on where you're at in here. This field doesn't have pattern tile, which it probably should have, but the landowners just haven't done that yet. I haven't convinced them yet, but 6381 is what we're on now. Standing really well. Moisture 20%. Planted about the 14th of May after the 2 weeks of rain. 35,000 is the final stand, somewhere in between that.
So then when it comes to disease pressure this year, we know for some people it was a lighter year, some people it wasn't. When it comes to, like, say, rootworm or any other pest pressure like that, have you seen that this year, and how did this Beck's hybrid handle that, if you did?
Well, so far, disease, the tar spot is kind of light. It was worse down on the other field. I don't see much tar spot here, but there is some leaf blight. This is a corn-on-corn seed corn production field, and there isn't any signs of rootworm whatsoever here. It's just standing really well.
And of course, you guys are part of that farm server using that program, that precision ag technology. So far, what are your initial impressions of that farm server program, and what is it able to offer to your farm?
Very full of knowledge. There's so much you can do with that. I mean, it's getting its data off your field view, and some of it you got to enter, but giving you the daily reports on crop growth stage, the accurate weather results that you can get from it, planting the varieties on the certain fields with the certain soil types is beneficial. There's more analysis in there from return on investment that I haven't got that far into it on that part yet, but there are a lot of things you can do with that thing.
We'll have an info card coming up right over here in just a moment to let you know where you can find that full video. And of course, you can find the replays of our first two Beck's Harvest Tour videos, and the last installment will be coming next week. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor now, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we're going to get the closing markets. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Time to run down the closing markets, and we're being joined today by Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. Jason, first of all, welcome, and then what did we see on the grains today?
Thanks for having me. It was a little choppy today in the grain market. The overnights were a little bit lower, but as the day progressed, we had some excellent export sales this morning, and we saw both the corn and beans make a nice, strong close here today.
So give us a little background on what happened with that sale and where did we end up here today?
Okay, so China came in and bought about 3.9 million bushels of corn today, and then they also bought some beans. And we also saw quite a bit of unknown sales that we have a suspicion that's China. So feels like with these low prices that we've seen in the marketplace, that's spurring some export demand. We're seeing some fund buying coming in, especially on beans with the farmers wrapping up. We don't see a ton of hedge pressure on the board. So the funds are kind of taking the board back higher again, which is a great thing for the producer.
And this time of year, we know that the markets can be under a little bit of pressure, especially with the harvest of, especially like now it's been going good. The pace has been good. But Brazil also, have some question marks. And, we know China does a lot of business down there as well. How big is it for us to get those purchases today?
I think that's pretty big. Now, the big question is China front loading ahead of the election here. That's a question. I know Mexico has been way ahead of pace on buying some corn from the U.S., but any sales that we can get and get some excess corn and beans out of the U.S., that's very beneficial, especially when we have about a 2 billion bushel carryout on corn and about a 550 million bushel carryout on soybeans.
All right, moving over to the livestock side of things, cattle and hogs had a good day yesterday. Were they able to continue that on today?
Not today. The big news in cattle, there's an E. coli break out in the western United States. There's some people think that it's tied to beef, but as the day's gone on, more and more people are saying it's tied to the onions. But just that psychology that, we could have an E. coli breakout, that really put a lot of pressure on the cattle and the feeder cattle today. Another thing on cattle, they've been following the stock market pretty closely here since about September 6th, and the stock market was down pretty good. So are we down on the E. coli scare, or are we just kind of following the stock market?
And then what about on the hog side of things? What did we see happen in that market today?
The hog market just continues to be on fire. We're seeing some strong fund buying coming in. Slaughter this week on hogs is higher than what we saw last week, so we're seeing some good demand. December hogs actually made a new high for the year. Not quite contract highs, and the deferred months all made contract highs for the move. So a lot of power behind the hog market today again.
All right. Well, Jason, if folks want to talk about some of their marketing strategies, maybe think about what they should be looking at for their 2025 crops already, what's a good way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
Check us out at agmarket.net and then try to identify your local representative and just give us a call, and we'd be happy to work with you.
All right, Jason, we thank you so much for the insight and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day now.
And that again was Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at the closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen, where you can find that online at iowaagnet.com.
At the close, December corn was up 2.5 at $4.19 even. November beans up 5 3/4 at $9.97.5. Soybean meal down $2.70 at $3.15 even. Soy oil down 30 cents at $43.39. Chicago wheat up 2.5 at $5.78.5. Kansas wheat down a penny at $5.85.5. At press time, Minneapolis wheat was down 1 3/4 at $6.14 3/4, but did not have the closing number from CME at that time. Oats was down 2.5 at $3.80.5. Live cattle down 25 cents at $187.87. Feeders down $1.70 at $247.22. Lean hogs up $1.05 at $80.17. And pork cutouts were up $1.20 at $91.85. Class 3 milk down a penny at $20.34.
And that's been your closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, X, and on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when every time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about the Free Market Podcast coming 3 times a day, free of charge to your mobile device. You can find them on Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. Also, don't forget replays of the Iowa Ag Matters program, Ag Matters PM, and the latest Pods of Potential program all out. You can find that all at iowaagnet.com. From the iIron Studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Mark Magnuson, and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.